Heated shenanigans, working stiffer than mannequins. Vader time like a mannequin. Mega powers, I'm savage and peep the babbling. Got him shook off the verbal acumen. I'm the main event, meaning nobody coming after him. The topics we be tackling, ankle locking and tapping them. I hate seafood, but I might throw the Boston crab on him. You know sometimes it gets heated. You know sometimes it gets heated.
Everybody to Heated Shenanigans Podcast. I am your host, Scott, and on today's episode, I am joined by one of the absolute most fascinating daughters in professional wrestling. That, of course, is Kelly Slaughter, the daughter of WWE Hall of Famer, the legendary Sergeant Slaughter. Kelly, how have you been?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
Fantastic. Can't complain. Life's going pretty well.
Good. Good to hear. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. The pleasure is truly all mine. I'd seen you were doing some podcasts out there, and I was like, wow, definitely got to get Kelly on the podcast.
Yes, I'm happy to do it. Thanks.
You're most welcome. Well, let's kind of get people up to speed here. You obviously are the daughter of Sergeant Slaughter, but there is much more to you than that. You are actively in Spartan races. Your season, you said, had just concluded. So for those out there unaware, what exactly is a Spartan race?
A Spartan race is basically a brand of the Spartan brand, but it's obstacle course racing. Spartan actually just acquired OCRWC, which is like the world champion obstacle course race brand. So they're kind of monopolizing the market these days. I think Savage Race is the only race that's not owned by Spartan now. So good on Spartan. Good for them, I guess.
So training for these has got to be incredibly grueling, right?
Yeah, it can be for sure. It depends on what you're training for and like kind of what you already do and what your fitness level is already. The first race I did was a sprint, which is it's a 5K and it's got 20 obstacles. And I didn't do any training for that outside what I was already doing at the gym. But then my first one, I fell in love and I was like, I want to do more of these. And I heard about this trifecta that they do where you do one of each length race within a year, or you could even do it like over one weekend. And it's called the trifecta. And you get like a special medal for that and like all this stuff. And so I was like, I want to do the trifecta. So I found a friend of mine who was also crazy enough to want to do a trifecta. And so we kind of joined forces and we talked other people into doing them with us. And so, yeah, we have a good time. We do them for fun and for the bling. You know, we're not competing. We're not doing like the competition heats or anything like that. We're just doing it for the challenge and for fun.
And there's nothing wrong with that. You've got a passion for something, chase after it, enjoy it.
Yes, for sure.
So speaking of passion, I'm pretty sure you probably get this quite a bit, but your father had quite the passion for professional wrestling, still does.
Mm-hmm.
I was interested to know, growing up the daughter of one of the most recognized and legendary professional wrestlers of all time, what was it like actually being the daughter of somebody that's actively seen on national television?
It's funny you should ask because I really never know how to answer this question because he was wrestling and before I was born. I mean, he was Sarge before I was born. And so I don't know any different. Like he's always done that. And so that's just been my life. It's definitely had its perks for sure. But it's like, I didn't know a life without him being a professional wrestler, if that makes sense. When I got older though, it was, when he was the commissioner, my sister and I were in my mother's living room and we were watching him do something and the commercial came on and we looked at each other and we were like, oh my God, dad on there. You know what I mean? It was like, it kind of like hit us both at the same time, but we were older. Growing up with him, he was just my dad. You know what I mean? Like what he did didn't, I didn't care that he was a wrestler. You know what I mean? Like, and I kind of liken this to like, think about like your relationship with your dad, you and your dad. And like, did you like, do you care about what he does for a living? You know what I mean? Like, more than likely the answer is no, you do not care. So it was like, we didn't care. That was just like what he did. And that wasn't who he was. So in more ways than one, because my mom didn't let Sarge in the house. He wasn't allowed in our house. But Bob was, and Dad was, but Sarge wasn't.
That's incredible. Sarge is not allowed in the house.
No, not allowed.
What was it hard with him being on the road and not getting to see him as often as what traditional families get to see their parents?
Yeah, I mean, it was hard, and it was, you know, it was always like that, and so it, again, I didn't really know any different, but it was more hard when things would come up like father daughter dances or things of that nature. And my dad would be like, I'm trying to get home. I don't know if I can get home, or I can't be there. I'm on the road. And so those were hard. And like, he always tried to be home for holidays and birthdays and stuff. But there were some times where he couldn't because he was on the road, and wherever they were, either they didn't get the holiday off, or it was too far for him to get home in time. You know what I mean? So, yeah, not only did we have to spend those special occasions without him, but then he was like by himself too in some hotel room.
Yes, I would
It's funny
imagine.
because if you ask him, um, you know, all these places he's been, and he's been all around the world and everything. And it's like, you know, oh, Dad, so you were in Dallas. You know, what did you think about Dallas? And he's like, they had a good airport. Hotel was nice. You know what I mean? That's all he saw.
So yeah, you
So,
really don't get a chance on the road to take in the city that you're working in.
mm-mm, no.
As you got older and started to understand what your father did for a living and all the amazing memories that he had given to so many people, did you ever have the desire or the want to get in the ring and train to become a professional wrestler?
I did actually. When I was younger, I really wanted to be a wrestler, and my dad didn't encourage it. He did not want me to have the wrestler's life because he knew what the wrestler's life was about, and he knew the business, and he didn't want that for me or for my sister. And so he never encouraged it. And so I just kind of, you know, what I wanted to do as a wrestler was I wanted to wrestle the men. Like, I didn't want to wrestle the girls. Like, I didn't want to be a manager. Like, I didn't want to be arm candy. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to be wrestling, and I wanted to be beating the crap out of the boys, you know? And I still want to beat them up. Anyway, um, I kid. But yeah, I didn't see that. That really wasn't what I saw of women in wrestling at that time when I was young. And so I just kind of forgot about it, and life happened, and all of that. And then I started this fitness journey of mine, and I'm like, I could totally be a wrestler. You know what I mean? That was like a totally like missed like opportunity. Like, I think I really would have been a good one, you know? I definitely have the mouth for it.
Would you have adapted the character that your father had, or would you want to go a different path?
I probably would have been Slaughter Daughter, and I probably would have had like a camo look to me. I wouldn't have done a campaign cover. I may have done like the swagger stick. Um, but I definitely would have done the aviators because I feel like he's really known for the aviators and the campaign cover. But um, I feel like some things should be his. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't have done the campaign cover, but I probably would have done like a black tank top, some camo pants, maybe some I definitely have some combat boots on, but I would have been Slaughter daughter, like his daughter. Like I wouldn't have been like, I wouldn't have had a military background or anything. My character, I should say.
I would have really been interested to see what your journey would have been had you followed through and became the Slaughter Daughter on WWE television.
It would have been good, right? It would have
I,
been good. I feel like, I don't know.
I I mean, you look at a lot of the second and third generation wrestlers, and they do borrow from their parents and their grandparents. Ah, man, I think you would have had a role.
Yeah. I would have just been like very like in your face. Like I would have been like a powerhouse, like just like powerful and, or Slaughter daughter would have been. She would have been a powerhouse for sure, I feel like. I think it would have been good. I do feel like it was a missed opportunity. I have thought about doing it now at my age, but I also feel like, maybe most wrestlers are thinking about retirement when they're at my age. However, I haven't been wrestling for 20 years. So I haven't had that like wear and tear on my body that they have had. Um, but I don't know. I don't know.
Did he ever get you in there to take a bump?
I've never taken a bump.
Really?
I've never taken a bump. He's put the Cobra Clutch on me, and like we used to wrestle and stuff when I was younger. Um, and so maybe I did. I just didn't know that's what it was called. But yeah, like I've never like been in a ring and taken a bump.
That is fascinating. I would have honestly bet that you would have been inside of a wrestling ring. Man, but you did mention that
If
you're
I
on a
had a
journey.
time machine, I would go back.
Go back. Hey, I mean, you can
Wrestle.
still next time they call him to do something, see if you can go with him, get in there, take that bump, see how it feels.
I know. I should contact my dad's agent and be like, I want Triple H's number, please.
Just like I mean, got the Rock's daughter in NXT. I think we can get it going.
Yeah.
But you did mention that you've been on a journey.
Yes.
What led you to start this journey, and how has it been so far?
So my fitness journey didn't really start until I was in my 40s, and COVID. Actually, at the beginning of the pandemic, they were saying that obesity was a high risk factor in like COVID death, and I was like, I'll be damned. Can I say that?
Yeah, yeah,
I'll be
yeah.
damned if I'm gonna let some virus take me out and away from my kids because I'm fat. You know what I mean? Because I'm overweight. Like, I'm not gonna let this happen. Like, I need to get into shape and get fit and get some of this weight off. And so I just started walking my neighborhood. And it was also a way to like get out of the house because we were all like cooped up, And so I was just like going out, and I would take my daughter in her stroller and we would walk. And I ended up walking, I was up to like 5 miles a day. And then a friend of mine reached out and was like, hey, do you want to go? Do you belong to the Y? And I was like, yeah, we signed up. They just built it. We signed up. We never go. You know how that is. And she was like, well, come to a class with me. And so I was like, okay. And so I went to a class with her, and I fell in love with the classes, and just that's pretty much how everything began for me. Somebody asked me to do a Spartan. A friend of mine that I made at the gym, they would keep asking me, and other people on the team would keep asking me if I was going to do the Spartan with them. And I was like, no, 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 no. And then finally I was like, if I say yes, will you stop asking me? Please. And so that's how I signed up for the Spartan. I had no idea what a Spartan was. I just knew they were really hard and I would not be able to do it. And I did it. And I jumped fire and crossed the finish line and got that medal. And I was like, absolutely amazing. It was freezing cold. Like we had frost warnings the night before. And there's like water you have to get in and stuff. And they if I remember correctly, they even took one of the obstacles out, the dunk wall, because it was so cold you couldn't go all the way underneath the water. They took it out. So that's how cold it was, and it was raining. And we're standing there. There was a group of 20 of us, and we're standing there, and we're all like on the obstacle course. And somebody was very sarcastically said, like, so what you guys doing next Saturday? You want to do this next Saturday? And I was like, yes. I was absolutely crazy. And I was like, let's go to the next obstacle. And off we went. And yeah, that was that.
Man, I love the heat doesn't bother me, but damn, the cold, that's where I draw the line.
I don't mind. I feel like, so me and my team have talked about this. Like, would you rather be racing in the cold or in the hot? And when we're racing in the cold, we're like, I would so much rather be hot right now with you, blah, blah, blah. And then when you're racing in the hot, you're like, I wish it was colder. You know what I mean? So it's really like, there's stuff you can do to make yourself comfortable when it's hot, and there's stuff you can do to make yourself comfortable when it's cold. But yeah.
So in the gym, favorite exercise or set?
Favorite exercise or set? That's hard. So I teach a class. I'm a fitness instructor, and I teach a tone class, and I have like favorite tracks. So it's like a track is like a song with a little routine to it. So I have favorite tracks. I'm trying to think of like lifting. What's my favorite thing to do? I just started. I was doing dumbbell bicep curls, and I just started doing them with a barbell. So that's been fun. I like to see my progress with lifting. I just started lifting, like seriously lifting, maybe 5 months ago. 5 months ago or so.
I would recommend a YouTube series for you. The gentleman is sadly no longer with us, but John Meadows.
Okay.
One of the sharpest minds. John Meadows, and he is like the Bob Ross, or was the Bob Ross of powerlifting. Tremendously nice guy, gone incredibly too soon. And he explains it so well, like why you need to be doing stuff, the benefits, the safe way to do it, and I highly would recommend.
Sounds good. I will definitely check him out.
I think you'll enjoy it. So would you say growing up, this was one I had somebody told me that they wanted me to ask on the podcast. So,
Okay.
and I'm not sure the age you were when this particular angle happened. I think you might know where we're going with this.
Okay.
Sarge was infamously known for becoming an Iraqi sympathizer at some point in his career. I was very interested to find out how that was like for you as the family of the man that turned his back on America on TV.
It was great. It was the best year of my life. No, I'm totally kidding. It was awful, and I was like tortured at school. I was in the 6th grade. So I was 12 maybe when he became a traitor, the Iraqi sympathizer, and I got it bad at school anyway because I was overweight, and people would make fun of me for that, or like make comments and stuff. But when that happened, it was awful. I didn't want to go to school. I will say though, like I got it bad, but I also gave it back. So it was like it became like a game almost, I think. But I wasn't having fun at all. Like it was not fun.
So you were getting a bet? You said you were giving it back to him. Were you
Oh
like
yeah, like
going
I'm
along?
no, like if they were saying something to me about my dad and like making fun of my dad and making fun of me because of because of him being a traitor, I didn't just go like, "Oh, boo-hoo." Like I was like, "Well, man," I would, you know what I mean? I would like tell them off. Um and then I would tell my dad about it and he would wanting to get some comebacks from him and that I could then pass on. And he would just say, just tell him we laugh all the way to the bank. And I'm like, what? I don't even know what that means. You know what I mean? Like, he had fun. He has always said that being a heel is more fun than being a baby face. And I believe it. I think it would be so much more fun to be a heel because you could be like mean and like, you know, and sarcastic and like go off and people love it, you know, it's fun. But you know, we did have bomb threats and death threats on the Vince McMahon, his family, on the WWE offices. They were going to come and bomb. Um, they were going to kill Sarge and his family. I found out recently that not only did they call the WW offices and threaten that, like they did research. They knew our names, they knew where we lived, they knew the schools that my sister and I went to. So they were like serious and it was taken seriously. And we had 24-hour security guards, like we had bodyguards basically like following us around. They were living in a Winnebago outside of our house. um they had like to put cameras up around the house and stuff and in case anyone got by them because where we lived in Connecticut, we had 4 acres of land and then beyond that was like a nature preserve. So I mean, as far as you could see was nothing but trees, and we only had one neighbor we shared our road with one person, so we only had one neighbor, so we were out in the middle of nowhere. um, so that was before the internet also, and we were unlisted. That was like a thing. Like you couldn't just like Google somebody and get their information. Like you had to go into like the white pages or call the operator. You'd have to call the operator and ask for this information. And we were unlisted. So we paid money. My parents paid money for us to have private number and private address and everything. So, but they had all of that information and they were going to come and kill us. And so Vince had security. They had to change the venue of WrestleMania that year for security reasons. My dad was wrestling in a bulletproof vest. It was pretty intense and it was scary because it was already like, you know, your dad wrestles and like when you know like what that does to the body and everything, and we know it's, um you know he knows what he's doing. He knows they know what they're doing to make it so it doesn't hurt as bad, but it still hurts, you know what I mean? um so we're smart to the business to an extent, but it's still scary, you know.
Freaking bomb threats and death threats. That to look back on that and realize that that was a part of your life, that is gotta be frustrating to sit here and like, random people threaten to blow up my home because of my father on TV.
Right, because of a character that he plays, but he played it so well and he did it so well and he knew how to be a good heel. You know, he'd been a heel before and then he was a baby face and then he was going back into being a heel, and he definitely knew what he was doing. And it's funny because I would say maybe 12 years ago, my dad and I were looking at some promos of him that he did during that time frame, and we were looking at YouTube. And so he's sitting on the computer, and I'm standing next to him, and we're watching these promos, and my heart starts racing. Like my cousin had just been died from wounds that he sustained in Afghanistan, and like 9/11 and like, like this whole, like patriotism. And then like, here's my dad, like being like, the USA. And I was like, Dad, I like hit him on the arm. I was like, Dad. And he was like, what? And I was like, I totally get why people wanted to kill us now because I want to kill you right now. And like, you're my dad. And like, I know this isn't real. And like, you're sitting right here. But like, this guy on TV, I want to freaking kill him. You know what I mean?
Man,
So, but that just goes to show, like I was saying, like he was so good at what he did. He
one
knew
of the
what he was doing.
one of the
Here I am, like marking out so bad on my own dad. You know what I mean?
how could you say such a thing?
Yeah, I'm like, Dad, oh my God. No wonder people wanted to kill us. Look at what you said. Like, goodness.
Well, before we wrap this up, speaking of YouTube earlier, you do have your own YouTube channel. I want you to tell all the listeners out there about your YouTube channel.
I do. I have a YouTube channel. It's called Slaughter Daughter. And it's basically just conversations with me and my dad. We haven't done one in a few months, but we have some that were pre-recorded and then we have some that we did live. So check both of those out. If you want more information on Spartan and like what we do, me and my team, when we do our Spartan race, there's a couple episodes on there about Spartan. So yeah, definitely check it out.
And what's the handle out there again for everybody listening?
Slaughter Daughter.
There you go, guys. Make sure to check out Slaughter Daughter on YouTube and watch some of Sarge's old clips on YouTube and remember all the fun times he had in the WWE. Well,
Yes.
guys, we're going to end this one right here. I do want to sincerely thank my guest today, Kelly, for taking time from her schedule
Thank
to
you.
be on this podcast. Very grateful for you. And for all of us here at Heated Shenanigans Podcast, we will see you guys on the next episode. Everybody take care.